Welcome to the Lead Up Leadership Podcast. Hear from rising leaders and seasoned leaders across various industries to see about their leadership journey and how you can level up your leadership game. Here's your host, Renato G. Lead up!
I ended up working for Hampton City 2 years after I graduated. So I graduated in 2010 and went back. So I had an internship. I'll back up. So the same year President Obama got elected is 2008. Hampton City elected its first Black college president, Chris Howard, Dr. Chris Howard. He's still my mentor to this day. He's the president over at Robert Morris University. Right? You talk about, I think only 17% of all college presidents are Black or African American, right? So that's a small percentage, less than a fifth, right? And so,
and he happens to be the president at your school.
And he happens to be, he happens to be president at Hampton City, along with we have Barack Obama as the president of the free world. I'm like, so I'm kind of in this twilight zone, like, yo, this place
going on,
like, yo, we got Christopher Howard, we got Chris Howard, we got President Barack Obama. So when he got to campus, I was like, yo, I gotta learn how he got here. Like, how did you even get here? You know what I mean? Like, so I connected with him early. We established a relationship. And I would go see him, and I was kind of like he's like a mentor to me. So, Harvard grad, Rhodes Scholar, played for the Air Force Academy, was a running back, killing it, man, doing all type of great things. He taught at Oklahoma. He had Sam Bradford in his class, the quarterback from Oklahoma, all these different stories, man. So he's super, super connected. And so, I was like, man, I'm trying to soak it all up. I'm a sponge, man. I'm trying to soak it all up. So, in my senior year, he helped me land an internship out in Boston. I was assistant teaching second grade. So I graduated from undergrad from Hampton City, BA Economics, May 2010. And then like that June, I literally go to Boston, go to Beantown. So I learned a lot in Boston too.
I bet you did.
Learned a lot, man. As far as, I didn't know a couple things I didn't know. I didn't know the rivalry of the Yankees and the Red Sox was that intense. I think as somebody who lived next to Yankee Stadium, we were kind of spoiled. Like we won a lot of championships and so a lot of pennants. So he was like, whatever. But when you go to Boston, they let you, you hear it, they let you have it. They talk smack, you getting fights. I would have my ID, my New York ID. I would go into a bar or a lounge. They would look at me, the bouncer, Yankees or Mets. And I'm like, Mets, man. Like, you know what I mean? Let me in. Like, what's going on? Like, I know it was that deep out there.
Dang.
It was deep. But, you learn a lot, too, as far as race out there, too. There's a lot of undertones and history out there with race and just being a Black person, somebody in the skin, man. I was in Dorchester, certain areas of Boston that look different than other parts. I remember, I'll never forget, we took our class to the State House in Boston, and we was given a tour. So the tour guide is me, the tour guide, and the lead teacher, Lucy Bradley, who was my lead teacher. All the little kids is all second graders. So we going around the museum, and she's going over these different exhibits and stuff. And there was this one picture with a Black woman and a few white women in the picture. It's like, yeah, we have this picture here. We have these women, and we have this colored woman in the picture. Like, we was like, what the heck, color? Like, who says that? This is like circa 2011. Like, what was going on here? So Lucy looked at me, I looked at Lucy, and then Lucy, and I was proud of Lucy. She used her privilege as a white woman. It was like, no, we don't. That's not how we speak. We don't say color. Like, blah, blah, blah. Telling the lady that. So I didn't have to say anything in that moment, but just to know, as far as those different things, I'm like, what the heck? So Boston was like that. It was one of those kind of environments as well. So, from there, I had the internship for a year. I go back to Harlem, 2011, around like June, July 2011. So I had to go back home, go back to my essence. I'm going back to the projects, I'm going back to where it all went down at. So I grew so much, my personality, things that I saw. So I had to recalibrate a little bit my own mind and to be able to get back into that mix, into that speed a little bit, right? And so, having conversations with people like, yo, you speak different, bro. Using these big words, bro. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you talk white, bro. You know what I mean? So I have those conversations with the homies. And, nah, man, I'm talking like us. This is how we speak, right? So having those kind of dialogues. But so I was back home, for like a little over a year. You know what I mean? And I was pissed at the world because I didn't land a job for a while. So I'm getting unemployment. You know what I mean? And I'm like, yo, I went to college. I don't got a job. This is horrible. Like, I thought I was going to have work. Like, I thought I was going to find my career. Y'all lied to me. I got student loan debt. Sally Mae call me every month. You know what I mean? But we call her Sally Bay, though. That's a relationship. Sally Bay. Bay calling you for that bread. You know what I mean? I'm like, I don't got no job. How I'm giving you, you know what I mean? So it was rough. I was feeling some kind of way. I was mad at the world for it. I mean, like, y'all lied to me. I said, if I go to college, it'll be this way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, I worked through it. You know what I mean? I landed a part-time job at St. John's University in Queens.
Okay.
So St. John in Queens is in Queens, so it's deep. It's it's kind of far away from Harlem. So public transportation I had to take to put it in perspective. I had to, on my way to and from was 2 hours. So my commute was like 4 hours in total per day. And I was working part-time. So part-time, that's 4 hours a day.
Right.
So I'm commuting
You're
as much
working
as I'm
part-time
working for a week. Right. You know what I'm saying? But, I needed a job. Like I'm going out there. So to get to Queens, get to St. John's, I had to take three trains and a bus. So I had to take 3 different trains to get to Queens and then take a bus ride. Man. It was deep. But, I was out there for like a little year. I did my thing. I was working in a call center. Triaging calls that came to the call center, leading with admissions, with financial aid, the bursar's office. So they had their call center set up, and I was doing those types of things, helping applicants make sure they had know what paper they needed to submit in their application process, different holds, so on and so forth, right? So working through that. So that was my first taste, working in the college setting, it with a customer, in a call center. So I remember I was about to go home one day from work from St. John's. I'm on a bus. And so this random number, I get a call on this random number, a 434 number on my phone. And so I look at the phone, I don't know, this number is not saved. It might be a bill collector. I don't know. I ain't got no money, so I don't know if I'm gonna answer this joint. But luckily, I looked at it. It was like 3 rings went by. I finally, I'm like, let me just see what it is. So I was like, hello? Is this Hakeem? I'm like, yeah, this is Hakeem. Like, who is this? You know what I mean? Who is this? And so he was like, hey, it's David Klein from Hamden, Sydney. You remember me? So David Klein, he was the dean of students. He's the same dean that came to my room the time that my mom passed away. Yeah. So he called me. He was like, hey, we have this position of this dean, this assistant dean of diversity and inclusion. I talked to Christopher Howard and a couple faculty. Your name came up, and would you be interested in coming back to Hamden, Sydney? And I'm like, I don't know, man. Hamden, come back to Farmville. I'm in New York City. Come back to Farmville, Virginia. So I was like, give me a couple days to think about it. I appreciate you considering me, blah, blah, blah. So I'm like, what the hell? I'm like, I don't know. So I hang up the phone, go about my business. I get the next day. This is how God works too, bro, right? So the next day, Christopher Howard calls me. He calls me, Hakeem, how you doing, Hakeem? He told me whatever, giving a big bro talk. He said, David Klein called you? I'm like, yeah, he called me. He's like, he's talking about the assistant dean. I was like, I don't know, big bro. I'm back home in New York. I was doing my thing. I was working part-time, doing my thing. I was like, I'm unsure if I want to go back to farming. He's like, look at it this way. So he gave me the big picture. This, you'll be able to start your career, education, do this and that, blah, blah, blah. It's going to be great. This will be great. I'm telling you, take advantage of it. So I was like, all right, man. So big bro, he said what he had to say, give me that big bro talk, gave me that perspective. And then after that, a couple days after that, my nana in Virginia, her father had passed. He was from Queens. So Nana had came to New York, and I ain't seen her for a while, probably a little over, maybe close to a year. So she came to New York to lay her dad to rest. And so I had told her about, the calls I got in regards to me potentially going back to Hamden City. And she was like, you taking that job? She was on it. You taking that job? Whatever the case might be. You leaving. Because she was always nervous about me being back in Harlem. She was she was nervous. She heard all the things about Harlem. She's nervous. I'm trying to do some things. I'm like, man, don't be nervous. It's all good. But she, being a grandma, you know how that go. And so I remember we was at the wake for her father, and she telling everybody at the service, my grandson about to be a dean. He about to be a dean at a college. I'm like, yo, I ain't even take the job yet. Relax. She's plugging that in heavy. She's plugging it in heavy. And so, I decided to take the job, after listening to her and kind of, thinking about it, reflecting on what it could be. I already took a jump before. So, I was, I took that jump, I worked out my favor. So I'm like, all right, I'm gonna be back on it. So then left to go to Hamden City, man. And as the assistant dean of diversity and inclusion, that was tough. It was, I learned a lot, but it's also tough because, you, as somebody who went to that institution, you see one side of the curtain, you see the student side. And now I'm an administrator, at this institution. One of 3 or 4 black staff and faculty at the institution, by the way. And so I'm seeing the other side of the curtain, peeking back there, seeing how things work, resources, how people feel, faculty, staff, infrastructure, blah, blah, blah. So I got just from my job alone, it was a newer position. it got met with a lot of resistance, you know what I mean, from students, from other faculty, other staff. They didn't see the importance of us talking about diversity and inclusion. You know, it was a, you know, kind of a thought that we all should talk about what makes us the same and like how we're all the same, and without talking about all the other things, right? That systematic racism, white supremacy, privilege, all these different things, right? Systematic oppression. So I got met with a lot of resistance, you know what I mean, as far as my role. So, you know, I had a lot of different situations that took place. One, I'll highlight two ones that happened. One was I wanted to do a series on privilege with some students and just the whole institution, faculty, staff, and kind of try to make it a large scale type of thing to talk about privilege, right? All types of privilege, race, you know, male privilege, whatever it is, right? Religious privilege, nationality, so on and so forth. And so my supervisor, who was David Klein, who, you know, at the time, he was like, Hakeem, we're not ready for that yet. This is like 2015. Mind you, I got this job in 2012. So, you know, there's a lot of things going on between there. You know, I'm doing pretty well. I'm doing my thing. But this one was a big one because just the way it was handled and how it went down. Yeah. So he's like, we're not ready to talk about privilege. And I'm like, it's 2015. Like, I mean, we got to talk about it. We got to work through this institution. I can facilitate the dialogue with some faculty, some staff. We can do it together. We can do it with our student leaders who are ready to kind of talk about those things and go from there. So he literally told me, no, like you can't, don't do it. You can't do it. So he's like, all right, kind of cool. So me being me, you know what I mean, and having the relationships that I had and the connections I had with students and stuff like that, I had plugged it in with a few students that were like a part of that were resident advisors, that were orientation leaders, that were important, you know, students that had a lot of social capital on campus. Right. So, you know, it was like, I had told them about it. It's like, hey, we'll just do it. We'll facilitate it. I'm like, all right, cool. So they did it on their own. So I sent them the materials. Look here, look at this, or whatever the case might be. I ain't gonna be there. This is how I should go have a conversation, do the privilege walk, so on and so forth. So, you know, Hampton City being Hampton City, and how it works is alumni have a lot of power. There's a lot of it's a lot of nepotism, a lot of things that happen there, right? So what went down was the students conducted the privilege walk. It's probably like maybe 30 so students. More than half of them loved it. Like they loved it somewhere in the middle. There's a few that didn't like it. The few that didn't like it called alums. Like, this is ridiculous. We're doing a privilege walk. I learned that because I'm white, I got all of this. And now I learned because I'm this. This is horrible. Like going in, like, and called a bunch of alums. The alums literally called David Klein. Like, what the heck is going on here? This is not right. This is not how you're going off. So David calls me. Yeah. Hakeem, I heard about this privilege walk. What's happening? What's going on? I knew you had something to do with this. I told you should not do blah, 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 blah. So he's upset. And so he said, we want to have a meeting right now. So he called me and a couple other my colleagues, a couple other assistant deans, myself. We all met. So he's like late at, it's probably like 7 o'clock in the evening. Wow. You know, 7, 8 o'clock in the evening. Calls us for a meeting. And I'm like, all right, you know, I know I'm about to hear it. You know what I mean? I got my ammo. It is what it is. And so we went to the office. Like, hey, you know, this is like, you know, this it's not how you do things. Like, you know, there's ways you go about this, right? You have Malcolm X and Martin Luther King Jr. Malcolm X was violent. Martin Luther King was this and that. So I let him go on this soliloquy and kind of, you know, telling me about Martin Luther King and Malcolm X as a white man, telling me about that, right? So I let him go on and kind of talk about it. And I was like, okay, Dave. I said, at the end of the day, they both got assassinated. So what does that tell you? He's like, you know, kind of like, you know what I mean? So we had a little dialogue or whatever, you know what I mean? And all those type of things. And so, you know, essentially he said, look, we had another meeting. You know, he called me in about a couple of days later. He called me in with another one of my colleagues that was there. And so he's like, hey, you know, it seems to me like you've been an angry black man around here. You've been real angry. You know what I mean? And so I'm looking at him like what, angry? You know what I mean? So in that moment, right, you got a choice to make. Either you let that emotion get evoked out of you, that anger, that so-called anger, or you just have more dialogue. So I had to ask him, hey, how you define angry black man? So I didn't know anger had a color. Like, I know, so let's talk about that. Of course, he didn't have the language to even articulate what it meant, because it's just, you know, just egregious and just ignorant, right? And not even knowing what that is, but you just saying it because of propaganda and what you heard and what, you know, angry black man looks like in the eyes of the dominant society, right? And I was like, look, man, like, you know, it's nothing angry about me at all. Like, you know, I think it is that you feel some kind of way because I'm not acquiescing to how you think I should do my job from your position, right? I'm trying to do this work. This work requires certain levels of things and certain conversations we have to have. And for us to grow as an institution, we have to do this, and that. you know, and I think it's unfortunate that you literally trying to hold me back from doing these things because you're worried about what people may think or whatever case might be. So he was like, look, you know, if this, he said, I'm putting a note on your file right now. I'm putting a note on your file. If anything happens, going to write you up and we're going to move forward like that. So he literally put a note on my file because, you know, we did a privilege walk or whatever, or the students did. And I kind of was behind it. All. So, you know, but that was a risk I was willing to take. You know what I mean? I think if I had to do it again, I'd do it again. You know what I mean? And so I think it's one of those things where, you know, as a leader, there's certain things you got to do and you plant seeds and sometimes you got to live with the results. So there's a lot of things that had went down there, man. And, you know, a lot of good, some bad, some ugly, and some good too. Definitely some silver linings because there's some folks that some of my best friends came from here in the city, man. Some of my most memorable and fondest memories was in college, man. I got to go, you know, my freshman year, I got to go to Aruba with the basketball team. You know what I mean? I'm a kid from Harlem, got to get on the plane. Like, you know, that's probably my third or fourth time my whole life getting on the plane, went to Aruba. You know, I'm on a beach. You know, I'm like a fish out of water. I'm on a beach with Tim's on, man. I'm in Aruba with wheat Tim's on, bro. And my teammates laughing at me like, you got on Tim's. I'm like, I'm happy though. I'm like, yo, I'm out here. Like, you know what I'm saying? Of course, I don't wear Tim's on beaches no more. I done grown up. I done learned a little bit. Let my dogs out, you know what I mean? But just the experience I was able to have, right? And so, you know, I think that's super impactful, man. So, you know, I think as far as, you know, from the Fishburne piece to the Boston piece and all the different things I was able to learn, man, it's just, you know, as a leader, man, like having that integrity, you know, being able to stand on what you believe in, having that, being authentic too, and being able to, you know, being able to speak across difference, you know, and those different things that I learned along the way, be able to speak truth to power and challenge people and challenge systems and challenge structures and, you know, and ask questions, ask why, you know, all these different things. So, you know, I learned a lot. Him and Cindy definitely showed me what overt racism looks like, right? And so, and what you know, and so it's interesting too, as you think about where we are now as a society, right? And being in California, where I'm at, I always told you this, as far as like the difference and like the things that I saw and like being in California, like how I could pinpoint, like, okay, this is some, you know, it looks different, but it's still here, right? It's just covert things that happen, right? But where I was in Virginia, it was over. So you saw Confederate flag. You saw people told you how they felt about you, so you kind of knew how to navigate them or knew how to deal with them and all that type of thing, right? Which I think where I am now, I think that's better. I'd rather you let me know how you feel. We can work through that and kind of have a mutual agreement or whatever. Yeah. Rather than you smile in my face and and then behind you snickering and like having these backdoor deals, whatever you're doing. So that it goes full circle right now with politics because when you think about the whole Trump piece, right? Like he's everything. He's emboldening people who have that overt, who have prejudice and who have discriminatory views against others. He's emboldening those folks, right? And so for me, like I think in certain areas and states, for example, in California, right, like a lot of folks aren't used to seeing that way, like because California is different kind of, you know, it's like liberal and like a progressive area as California as a state, right? So you know, you don't see those overt manifestations so much, and so now with Trump, is more of that happening even in California, you know what I mean? And so people are like, oh my God, this like people like this is really a real thing. People really feel this way, and I'm like. And I tell my wife this all the time. I said, babe, this is how they always felt. You know what I mean? Different pockets of this country. Like I was seeing that years ago. Like this is so when I interact with people like that who hold those ideologies, I know how to, you know, kind of navigate that a little bit, man. So that's kind of, you know, how those experiences went, man. But I wouldn't trade it, man. When it came to the Fishburne piece, the him and Sydney piece, you know, I learned so much and was able to take different, you know, learn about just different, you know. I think as far as the piece, what's been most impactful is being able to connect with folks from all walks of life. Yeah. You know, and being able to have those conversations, you know, and being well versed. I think, and being, you know, and being somebody who can be well versed but continue to be authentic, right? And being somebody who can go from the boardroom back to Polo Ground Towers in Harlem and be comfortable and be me. You know, I have to, you know, acquiesce to anybody, anything. I have to sway how I am as a person or change how I am as a person to fit in.
Yeah, man. Whew. Thank you for that, man. No, this is, I mean, even when you, because, you know, this is a lot of times similar situations, whether it's overt racism or in situations where there's tension or pressure to make a decision that's maybe out of alignment of certain people's values. You know, people have choices that they have to make, right? Sometimes in the heat of a moment, right? And it can have drastic consequences, right? Do I stick to what I really truly believe in, or am I going to be persuaded and fall with with what everybody says the majority is saying, because because of my job, because of security, because of what others may perceive me as. And so I guess what I'm trying to ask in this next question is, from your experiences and to where you are now, and leading in your position, how are you navigating with your own philosophy of leadership? Because I think it's important, right? As we learned even, in school, like, leadership ethics and different things. Like,
a lot of good conversations in that
right?
class.
Because, when we had that a lot of, great discussions, right? And when I say great, it's not always positive. I think there's a lot of learning that I, for myself and in our cohort. But I think the what I got from those discussions was better understanding what is most important to me. What do I truly value? Because at the end of the day, that's what's going to help steer you, right? When you make those hard decisions, whether sometimes where it's going to cost you your job, cost you a career, reputation, right? Hearing all these presidents and different things when it comes to money and integrity issues. And it's wow, we think higher education, again, right, compared to other businesses, but we have issues, right? And and a lot of it lies in leadership. Right? So bringing it back to, man, like, how do you try to navigate, your leadership life and role? And kind of like, how do you ground yourself with your philosophy, man?
Yeah, man, that's a great question, man. We talk about it a lot, man, our ethics classes, and some really in-depth conversations, man. Higher ed is a microcosm of society, man. I think that the way higher ed has been presented as an industry, right, it's one of those kind of things where it's the bottom line of higher ed has been conveyed in a way that to the masses makes higher ed seem like it's not a business, or it's not something that's fueled by other things, right? It's not informed or rooted in some things, right? And so we think of, we're just here to help these students, so we're here to do this, but there's other things that inform or has rooted in higher education, right? Money, cultural things, right? Holding up, privilege, or oppression, all these different things, all microcosms of society. And so you're dealing with people and human nature and human behavior, right? And so there's a lot of things that go when you have institutions, and especially if you have institutions that are even institutions that are homogenous, like something like Hampton City, institutions like Sac State, that are other institutions that have diversity, right? Because there's different understandings of morals, values, principles, and what's important, right? Those things are culturally based. I never forget the conversation we had in class about morals and all that. I was telling folks, I'm from Harlem, New York. Like, I had to steal, right? Like, some folks may think that's immoral, right? But when you are living in abject poverty and you don't eat for 4 days, and you're a kid, you're gonna make that decision, right? I might go to the deli and steal a coffee cake or a bag of Lay's, and that second, it's worth it to me, because I haven't eaten in 3-4 days, right? And then so we had to have those conversations around structures and systems and things that inform behavior and how we even perceive morals and values and all that. So it's really interesting, right? So let's take some place like Hampton City, for example. Right? I've seen so much, right? So there's pieces where, like, at Hampton City, the Black students there were so many things around microaggressions and like focusing on Black students like smoking weed or doing certain things. But when white students, they were doing heavy drugs like pills and stuff that you couldn't smell, right? Cocaine. And it was a different connotation to it, a different, how it was perceived, the things that would happen. And because of the nepotism and stuff with the school, a lot of those students would get off for things all the time. But if you get caught with this, it's a different thing, right? So I think about what that looks like in society, right? That looks like the crack versus cocaine laws and the war on drugs. That looks like, you get all this time for rocked up cocaine versus versus cocaine, right? And so that's a microcosm of society. So you see that happening through policy and all these different things, and in the government, and you come to a small college that holds 1,600, well, less than 1,200 students, and you see that in real time. Yeah. So for me, I made to make that connection, like, whoa, this is a relationship. This is right. You know what I mean? There's something to that, right? And so, and I remember, you know, this. I'll tell one more story, and I'll get to that other part. Yeah. And I want to make sure I say this. And so I remember that, and it goes into leadership and how I approach things. I remember one time I was in DC with some friends from Fishburne. Yeah, it's about maybe 7 or 8 of us in there. We chilling. And I actually talked to one of my classmates who was here for this situation about this, and I'll get to that in a second. So we all chilling. It's me and my boy Aaron from Fishburne, right, from Harlem. Yeah, there's a bunch of us chilling. Like there's me and Aaron's a bunch of other guys, you know, but most white folks. Like those 2 of us. Two black brothers and maybe like 6 or 8 like white boys. So it was a bunch of us together chilling. We had a house party, kind of like a pregame. We about to go out or whatever. So we chilling, hanging out. You know, crack open a couple beers or whatever, chilling out, just doing whatever, right? You know, we have age, we're doing our thing. So one of the guys pulls out cocaine, right? And just, you know, so him and a couple, they just start going off. They started, you know, just having a good time doing what they do, right? So 2 things happened in that moment. One, they didn't even look at me or offer me none. And we're white, and so they didn't do that because they knew who Hakeem Croom was. And they remember me from Fishburne, the dude who had the integrity and all of that, the dude who wouldn't do certain things. So when they engaged in that behavior, they didn't even look, they didn't even consider like offering me something. You know what I mean? Y'all do what y'all do, whatever. So that's one thing as far as, even when I was younger, like not being a follower, I was always a leader, right? There was things that was going on that I wouldn't follow the crowd. And so even this is like close to 10 years later after we graduate high school, right? And so these dudes doing that type of thing, right? And so the other part of that story is one of the guys that was there, we had a conversation a couple months ago about everything going on in society, right? So I get a lot of folks from different walks of life, a lot of people that want to talk to me about how did we get here, Hakeem? How can I be an ally? And help me walk me through this. How did we get here? Yeah. You know what I mean? How did we get to this place? What's going on with these riots and this looting and all of it? Right. They want to talk to me about it. Some people I do talk to, if I know they have a genuine interest in learning and be a part of the solution. Other folks I don't talk to because I know they want to kind of just, you know, maybe have a counter narrative or counter argument, right? For sure. So there's one gentleman that wanted to speak to me and we talked about it. And so I like to give concrete examples of like real life stuff that happens. So I was talking about all the different things with all the different poverty, crime, drug, all the different things, right? When it comes to black and white and systemic oppression. So I told him about a story about this story. He forgot about it. You know, it was like, he said, oh, wow, I remember that. He's like, I don't remember. Then I told him, he said, oh, I remember that. But I had asked him, I was like, yo, remember that time we was in DC and y'all pulled out the cocaine and y'all was doing y'all thing, right? Now, so for me, so when you look at somebody like me, right, even in that instance, right, I couldn't even, because of the historical context, me being black in America, the things that I was subjected to for being poor, being impoverished, you know, being a black person in a society, right, in this country specifically, right, and all different things when it comes to drug usage and the criminalization of black people through drugs and propaganda, right, I carry all that with me. So in that one moment when y'all was doing y'all thing, like, even say hypothetically, I wanted to do that. Say hypothetically, I wanted to do that. I was interested in like seeing what that feeling was like. Even though I don't want to know, but I couldn't even think that way because I'm carrying all of this historical stuff and my lived experience as a black person in this country. You know what I mean? So like, and having that understanding, that knowledge, well, I couldn't even do that. I said, so when y'all was doing that, did you think did any of that come to your mind or anything like that about? He's like, nah, I just wanted to have a good time. You see the difference? Like, I can't even, because of my experience. Like, that doesn't in my mind. That doesn't register as a good time. I can't afford to register that as a good time. Yeah. But they can. Right. That goes to show the difference in our lived experiences in this country. To Hakeem Croom, I could be risking it all. I could die, whatever could happen. I could go to jail for whatever years. Police come in here, whatever may happen. Right. But I can't even afford to consider that or to perceive that moment as a good time. Yeah. So it goes like so by our experiences. So as far as all of that, when I think about how I approach things, man, like, you know, I think as far as those messages, man, it's one of those things when it comes to leadership. And you know, I think I always err on what's right and what's true.
That's good.
Right. And I'm a person that's a truth seeker by every way, shape, and form of the word. Right. So in that pursuit of like seeking truth, knowledge, and understanding, right, even in higher education or just in life, you know, you got to make certain choices and things, and you got to say certain things, right? You got to move a certain kind of way. And sometimes it could be a little lonely sometimes because, you know, again, depending on how people perceive, you know, truth, you know, understanding and all those different things, it can be seen a certain type of way. So what I mean by that is, you know, I always land on what's right and what's true. What's the thing about righteousness and being truthful and what's true is that it's constant. Yeah, those things are they're not bound to time, or they're constant things, right? So and all of my leadership or all of my pursuits, whatever I do, I err on that and I let the chips fall where they may. Now, how did I get there though? How did I have that feeling? How can I? Because I have a family, I got things that I got to think about, right? My own self stuff, right? How I'm gonna eat, I'm making sure I got a salary, or right. But one of the things that, because I was able to make that initial jump, when I was young, to go from Harlem to Virginia, like I have the utmost faith. Like so, I think there's a little bit of like faith and conviction and faith that I have, right? And I don't mean faith. Well, I mean faith in a sense where I know that God has things meant for me, and you know what I mean. So, and I'm not the most. Well, I used to be somebody who was steeped in Christian religion, organized religion. Now I'm more spiritual, but my foundation was Christianity. But with that faith, I know that what's meant for me and what's for me is for me, and what's meant for me is meant for me, and I firmly believe that. That's for good. Some people, that's scary because we like to have control of things, or the perception of control. Right. Some things we think we have control of, we really don't have control of, but we think we do. Right. And so for me, given my little experiences, being able to make certain jumps in life and do things and have an open mind and be like, okay, I'm gonna err on these sides of these things and let the chips fall where they may. That's I always lean to that. That's kind of my moral compass and how I navigate spaces and stuff like that. And one of the things with that, right, with truth, understanding, and knowledge, and all these different things, as an educator, right, I have to talk about, you know, the things that education is rooted in, right? Is rooted in, right? As far as from a curriculum standpoint, pedagogy, ideology, you know, be all these different things, right? And speak truth to that. And be honest about it, right? You know, and kind of making sure that we never lose sight of those things, especially when it comes to students who hold marginalized identities, or people who hold marginalized identities, Black folks, whatever, folks in the LGBTQIA community, whatever it is, right? And so you err on that side of truth and understanding and knowledge. The second thing is, for me, I lead with love. Like, you know what I mean? I'm a person that's like I'm a positive, optimistic person, right? I've gone through a lot of my life, right? And I think God kind of gave me that, the Creator gave me that kind of gift. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you know, when people, it's like a magnetism, it's an energy, you know what I'm saying? And so, you know, people always ask, like, yo, are you positive a lot, man? Like, even today, a student was like, you always positive, Mr. Croom. I'm like, you know what I mean? But it's hard though. It's easy to be, it's hard to be positive. Like, it's easy to be negative, right? Because life will hit you all the time. That's the easy thing to do, being negative, right? And being positive is super hard. It takes a certain level of like, mental fortitude, you know what I mean, to be able to kind of choose to think a certain way, right? And choose to look at silver linings or think about things, right? So my lived experience, you know, being somebody who grew up in the conditions I grew up in, being able to see the things I'm able to see today, have the experience I'm able to have, you know, be around people from all walks of life, you know what I mean? Like, it's I look at it as a gift. I look at it as like just so thankful and so grateful for like the small things, right? So in that I find happiness and joy easily, right? I don't the big things aren't the things that make me happy. It's the small things, like, yo, I ate today, like, dang, yo, I'm happy, bro. I ate food, like, just. But so some people, it's like, yo, yeah, you're supposed to eat, like, but from my experience, right, that's real. You know what I mean? Like, so I carry those things with me, even in my work, right? Even how I interact with students, right? Validating them, you know, making sure they know that they matter, that they're important, you know, all these different things, right? Pouring into them in a certain way, loving on them, and students can feel it. You know what I mean? People can feel it. They know when somebody is authentic and you love them. There's a different kind of energy with it. So I've been successful with that. Even with that, right? I let the chips fall where they may. Because there's going to be a lot of times in these positions and these institutions depends on the climate or the politics of the institution.
Of course.
Somebody like me, it might not work. And sometimes it may. At the end of the day, I know that I'm going to be okay. You know what I mean? Because there's things that are meant for me. So, so I know that was a lot, but that's kind of how I go around navigating space and how I go from a leadership perspective and kind of think about my own leadership. I always lead with love, man. And, you know, I think that's just super important. Even for the small things, like even at work, right? Even in the center, like at the MLK Center, I'll buy snacks with my own money. Like I'll buy stuff with my own money and just put it in the center for the students to eat on, right? Now they love it now. Oh my God, there's always snacks in here. Like I do it because I know I was hungry as a kid. I eat every day. Like I'm happy I'm in a position to get snacks for people. Like you know what I mean? Like just small things. Like you know, my wife like, yo, watch that bill though. You know, you going crazy in Costco. You cut into our shopping money. You know, but you know what I mean? Well, she got on me a couple times, but that's just who I am as a person, right? That's what kind of guides me. So I stay grounded. I stay grounded, right? Because there's things that as a person that looks like me, coming from where I come from, sometimes you get far removed from your roots and far removed from those things, right? So I try to stay connected to that, so I never forget those feelings, and kind of use those to kind of push me in a certain direction.
Yeah, man, you said a lot of great stuff, man. Truth and leading with love, and that's definitely, man, when you talked about that energy, I know that I felt that energy when we met, and it continues to, you know, shine through, man. And so
appreciate that, bro.
And so continue to do that. And as we kind of start to wrap up, because I know we can be here for forever, but
you know how we do.
I know, but you know, as you kind of look forward, man, you know, I know we in COVID, but as someone that, you know, moves the way you do, trying to lead with love and trying to continue to pursue truth and really to make an impact, right, in our communities and wherever you go, right? What's next for you? What are you hoping to, you know, get more involved in? You know, any projects or anything, man?
Man, I'm excited, man. It's so many things, man. That I think this whole COVID thing and this whole pandemic is, again, it's all about perspective and how you. Well, I'll say two things: it's about perspective and privilege, right? Because so what I mean by that, I'm in a position where I'm privileged enough to not have to worry about a job right now, right? We have millions of people who do. You know what I mean? So I do recognize that. So the privilege that I do have as far as being able to, you know, still earn a salary, you know what I mean? Work from home, like don't gotta worry about basic needs, right? Those type of things. So I've been afforded the opportunity to think about what COVID, the ramifications of COVID on all of our lives, and kind of how can I be a part of the solution? And then what's some things I can do to offer? What can I do to offer to be a part of the solution? So a lot of things that I'm working on now is, you know, especially with the socio-political climate, one is I'm writing my book. Finally started writing, you know what I mean? So, you know what I mean? Been able to write. So
there it is.
You know, yeah, man. So I'm getting into that groove, man, and starting to kind of tap into that. So I'm working on a book that I'll hopefully have done by the end of, the goal is to have it done by the first quarter of 2021.
Wow.
And so I'm definitely paying myself to that. But if not, then we'll go. But I definitely got that hard deadline, you know, to get as much done as I can with that text, man. And also, too, I think just for me, you know, I think that's, of course, you know, working. One of the things as far as like podcasting, that's something that I'm thinking about right now, which what you're doing and kind of sharing different messages and videos. There's a lot of negativity going on right now, a lot of pitting of people against each other right now. And so for me, I've been kind of seeing that kind of with my third eye, like, yo, I need to kind of infuse some different things and some different kinds of narratives into the world, into the universe. So through my books, through that, also with the community too, man. One of the things I'm really kind of interested in, I've been hearing a lot of, is the politics thing. I'm kind of intrigued by local politics a little bit too. Even though it can get a little messy, but I think no matter where I am, I think I can make an impact, you know, in some kind of capacity. So I'm thinking a little bit about what that can look like in the future. You know, also, you know, other streams of income, man, just thinking about investing a lot. You know, thinking about, you know, the uncertainty of where we are and just kind of thinking about those types of pieces, man. And and I would say one more as far as like, you know, the 9-to-5 piece. I'm always looking to continue to build what we have at Sac State. I'm doing some great work there, what we're doing, but I'm also thinking about, you know, people know my aspirations to be a college president. You know, everybody knows that. So, you know, it's not something that I shy away from. So, you know, I'm definitely looking at my own career trajectory. you know, and kind of seeing like what's next too, you know what I'm saying? Like have a certain amount of time at Sac State and getting what I get out of my experience and being able to make an impact and loving the community. And then, you know, thinking about what that next role is going to be for me and how I can get to these different, you know, that final destination within the scope of higher ed. Right. So I think I'm juggling a few things. You know what I mean? I'm doing a lot of reading. So
that's good.
That's been great. I mean, doing a lot of reading for sure, man. So, you know, just taking this time to really think about, and one of the things too is to really with this time is you get an opportunity, if you have the privilege to have this opportunity, is to just think about your values and morals and how you want to continue to show up in the world, right? Because right now things are nasty. Things are nasty right now. And so, you know, thinking about those things and how you can you know, things that used to be important to you might not be as important as they once were, right? Yeah. Things that used to be valuable to you, it might not be as valuable anymore, right? And kind of this pandemic has shown us that a little bit too. It kind of have us kind of sit down a little bit, slow down, and reflect. And so I'm always somebody who welcomes doing that internal work on myself and reflecting and thinking and kind of figuring out, okay, what areas I can grow in, how I can continue making an impact. So yeah, man.
Yeah, man. I'm excited for your book. I'm excited for all these
man,
things,
me too, bro.
Other news
got
as
a lot
well.
to tell, man. Got a lot to tell.
Of course. I know, man. I know we'll continue to build and support each other.
Of course, bro.
And man, just lastly, I've done this the last 2 times, but I want to finish off this statement. Every leader needs this. What is that? Knowing what you know now, every leader needs this.
Every leader needs to listen. Every leader needs to listen. I think one of the things that as a leader in my own endeavors and leadership, being able to listen, and I mean like not just listen, but understand, but listen to hear and understand and being able to, as a leader, when you do listen to people that you're working with or you're supervising or whatever that you're leading, there's a different level of you galvanize people that way. You know what I mean? By sometimes to be a great leader, you gotta be a great listener, a great follower, right? And so those kind of go hand in hand in me. So you gotta have those things. So being a great listener, a lot of times, you know, when you in some of these positions, you can get a little big headed. You can kind of think you know things and know all the things. Of course, you know things. You're a leader. But there's still so much you can grow and expand your comfort zone, and it's going to take listening to people, right, and continuing to learn from others. And I think that's super, super important as you kind of see where we are as society today with some of our leaders. Some of our leaders out here, they don't do that very well. Yeah, you know what I mean, and so I think that's kind of what it is for me.
That's key. Every leader needs to listen, and y'all need to listen to this, replay it. Because there was a lot of things said here from my brother, Hakeem Croom. I appreciate you. Love you, bro.
Appreciate you, King. Love you, bro. Appreciate you, man. Keep doing great work.
And excited for just all that you have, man. Even with you and Ashley, man, just excited for you guys' future.
Yeah, thanks, bro. We're excited.
Yes. So you heard it here. Hakeem Croom on Lead Up. See y'all on the next.
Lead Up, baby.
Let's
get it.